Call it meeting to order. This is the Brush Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for March 15th, 2021. Old business. We need to approve the minutes of our December 29th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look through them and see if there was any changes or amendments?
Looks good to me. I move we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, it's been moved.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is new business, which is a public hearing. And this is presented or petitioned by Danielle and Clinton McDonald proposing subdivision of 110 Emerson Street and 422 Curtis Street, Brush, Colorado. We will start off with a staff report from Rick.
Good evening, members of the planning board and Madam Mayor. I hope that you've had a chance to look at the packet. I know we emailed you. There were some documents that I put in your new packet right now that reflect some of the changes. Tim Oakley found a mistake, and we began stressing like crazy to figure out, can we still have this? But thank goodness that Loranda saved the day. So where we have some discrepancies in the hard copy, the emailed copy that you had was in the mailer, the publication, and the posted sign. The original one had the incorrect dates, and I used that as a template and sent that to Loranda for her to change. She made the change, but I did not reflect the change in mine. And so when I sent out to you, I forgot to change that. And so Tim flagged it, and I was like, oh no, you would think the worst. So it's not a problem. It was all done correctly. So I just want to walk through. I'm not necessarily going to read this because I assume that you had a chance. I'm just going to summarize and walk you through what you have here. Everything's done by code. So we have done what the code requires. 15-day notice before the hearing. We actually do 20 days just to make sure we don't get caught by anything. So it's been published in the Brush Tribune, Fort Morgan Times. It has been mailed to all the addresses that you have in your documents. I have exhibits A through W now. And it shows in there all the mailers, all the addresses that I went to, and the sign was posted correctly. So this started around November last year is when they came to my office wanting to purchase this lot. So if you look in your first, just in the first staff report section, kind of shows you where it's at. If you haven't seen it, it's just at the corner of Emerson and Curtis right there. They bought the lot. Well, first they approached me and said, can we do this? They would like to buy it and subdivide it. And the time I said, let me think through this because this is, it's not something I do common. I mean, this would be the first one that we've had to subdivide since I've been here. Doesn't mean that hasn't happened in the past, which you'll see in some of your other documents. We have done many of these actually over the years. Although I could not find any documents though of us doing it. So that doesn't mean we didn't do it. It just means I couldn't find anything, which also means we could have done them illegally too. But regardless, I assume that they were done. We just don't have the documents. So they approached me and said, can we do this? Their end goal was to subdivide and then sell them off separately. So that's their end goal. In the meantime, in order to do that, we have some issues, which meant let's talk through this. So come December, we talked about it. We had several conferences. Then by January, we came up with a plan that I believe would work according to code, which means we got to do a variance first. Because the issue is it's in a low-density zoning district. Low density means you have some strong requirements. They're usually larger lots. The minimum lot size is 7,500 square feet. So if you subdivide it, you're going to be at like 3,500 a piece-ish, at least 3,000 plus square feet each lot. The problem that they had starting off was their lot was only 7,000 square feet. So it was actually less than what the minimum standard was. But it's grandfathered in because it was always there. They didn't have a standard when that home was built. So but let's get a variance to make it okay once we subdivide them, that the variance would say that it would be okay to have smaller lots. Second is, the front setback on 110 Emerson did not meet code either. So the front setbacks are 20 feet, side are 5 feet, rear is 15. So they were fine everywhere but the front. It was 17 and a half feet. So we got a variance to allow that. A variance does not rewrite law, doesn't change law, it just adjusts. So we can adjust in small places. When it says, if it doesn't have, so I go by the land use codes. So it tells me, so for example, can you have a jail in the residential area? So I go to my zoning code section, my table, to see what's appropriate land use. And the answer is, if it's blank, it means it can't be changed. If there's an R, it means they have a right to do that. And an S means it's a possibility, but through a special use permit. So when it's blank, variance doesn't do anything. They cannot change that. That would come back to city council to go through a whole ordinance change. And the likelihood of that would be, you'd have to really build a strong case that would, and the way you do that is you look at other cities, have they changed? You build a case to say, okay, there's strong support, we should change that. And then you would make the changes that way. But we don't really like to change code unless we have to. So we try to make it consistent with code, and then we let our comprehensive plan be our guide. So those are the two things that we do when we look at this. So we did the variance. It was a unanimous decision, no controversy at all. And then the next step for the final process would be this. This would be the actual allowance of a subdivision. And it's considered a minor because it's less than 4. And so, and on top of that, in the code, normally what happens is you have a sketch plan that would come before you. And then once your sketch plan, there's no decision on a sketch plan, it's just information only. And then you go into a final hearing. This is a final hearing or a final plat. And the code, I gave you the code. Code gives me discretion to waive that. And my rationale to waive that was it's already existing, so we're not building anything on it. We already have the existing structures, and we've already done the variance with a site plan that they've already looked at. So everything's been vetted as if you guys and myself have vetted it. So it was already done. We can move immediately to the final plat, or the subdivision for final plat. What that means is we have an existing plat. In order to go into final plat, you have to have all the engineering drawings, which I will then go to your last page. And the W shows how it's going to be platted. So this would be a final plat of showing each coordinate of where their property lines. Before we had 4 coordinates just at each corner, but now you got 2 in the middle to show where it would be subdivided. So that's what that means. I believe that it's consistent with code, because if you also look to, let me find that. There's a map that I created, trying to figure out where it's at.
Is that Exhibit N?
Yes, thank you. So if you look at N, this was one of the, just researching, has this been done before? So when it's done legally, you call that a precedent. It sets a precedent. Pandora's box has been opened. If it's been opened, now you have examples to redo it again. So on this map, I kind of made some color coordinate. You can see in the orange or red, that's where the property is located. So then I kind of looked at properties that are around that jurisdiction. And you can see in green, these were all subdivided already, but I could not find any of the legal documents where variance was granted so that they could do a legally conform, it's non-conforming because there's 2 structures, but since they subdivided it, now it is conforming to code, but there's still a problem with the square feet of the lot. But I couldn't find any information on these. Doesn't mean that we didn't have it. It's probably somewhere. I couldn't find it though. But we do have examples, and that's the point that I gave you the map. We have examples of multiple, and actually this is just a small, because if you look at the other document, I found a lot more than this, and I believe it would be the document right before that one.
Exhibit Exhibit M, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, maybe it's behind it.
It's a back page.
It's a back page, it was right in front of it.
Okay. M, is that what you said?
M is in Mary?
This is the front page to it.
No, that's not what I'm looking for.
No, it's the front page.
Yeah, this is what the back
Yes,
of it
that's
looks
what I'm
like
looking
with the
for.
list of
Okay.
addresses.
So you see there's a lot more that has been subdivided, and I gave you an example. And if you note on that one, you can see the square foot of the lots, and you can see some of them are very, very small, down to even 2,000 square feet. So that's an interesting one, like how did that get passed? But that's not for why I'm here. I'm just here to show that they have subdivided them even smaller than what this lot's asking for. So we have examples in the city currently. Code shows what we're doing, exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And then I want to highlight Exhibit V, and that is our comprehensive plan. I know our comprehensive plan is dated. It's from 2007, but it's still a guide, right, Monty? We still use this to look to see how our forefathers wanted us to plan our community.
I'm still alive.
So it's a good document, it really is. I love to go through and see what they discovered at the time and what they're predicting, and we're still following it, and we're still following it. So one of the goals that they put on here, here's the hard part. When you're looking for guidance, it's hard to find something exactly. So you want to try and find something similar. So I found a goal that's similar to what we're requesting. Doesn't fit perfect, but it is a guide. So I take it as a principle. It's not application perfect, but it's a principle. Principles don't change, applications do. That's why I always say principles are timeless. You want that to guide you. Applications can change, just like zonings can change. But listen to this. The goal was achieve a mix of housing types and densities in order to meet the diverse needs of the citizens. Well, even in this situation, those who have been before you granted these so that it would meet that goal. And so we're back at the same situation. Should we do that? And the policy is apply flexible standards to underdeveloped residential land to allow a range of residential development types and densities and price points. Now the context, if you can read that, that's for new development. Well, this is not a new development, but it's still a guiding. The point is types and densities and price points. And we have a lack of housing right now. If you were to divide this now, it gives somebody else an opportunity to buy a home in Brush, which is a good thing, because right now you can only have one owner and he can only make it a rental, both of them rentals, or unless they live in one. And then the strategies, identify the types of housing and housing are needed in Brush, and utilize the information when reviewing zoning and subdivision regulations. That's why we always come back to our zoning and making sure it's appropriate. Can we do that? Can we be flexible? This is the only time that's appropriate, is to talk about these things. And then the second one, encourage variety of residential densities and neighborhood designs. So our goal is always, how do we accommodate future growth? And you know, I'm from the urban area. Future growth doesn't sprawl out. Future growth comes in. And so it's more dense. And the bigger your city gets, the more dense it becomes, because everyone wants to return back to the city. And these are our only ways of seeing this area grow is this kind of stuff, is to make sure we can accommodate, because growth for our city is going west. And we're never going to see west. No. So that is my interpretation is that it follows code. It's consistent with what our guidelines are from our comprehensive plan. We've got examples that have already done it. And so really the last thing is, this is the last hurdle, because they have been compliant from the beginning. They've not been negative or frustrated or bullying or any of that. They've come from the beginning of wanting to do the right thing. And so they're commendable. I feel like I wish we had all of our requests like this. They have been buying properties up and trying to renovate them and make housing options for people, and they have the means to do it. So I think they're good citizens to do that. Before I get into any of the closing remarks, so I just want to open it for questions that you guys may have. I know we didn't go through all the documents, but they're just really more to support as you're reading through it. So any questions that you may have?
When were the homes constructed? Do you have
I might have it in here
I was just curious, and maybe if you.
This is literally my only question.
when they were constructed.
I was just curious. I mean, I did a drive-by, and I thought, wow, been there a while.
You know, that's a document I should have put in here. I should have put, the parcel, and I have the legal parcel, it's on Exhibit D, but it doesn't say the year of constructed.
That's okay.
So I don't know.
Should be on the assessor site.
Yeah. It was before 1986.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
when our
sure.
code officially came in.
1901,
1901.
Oh, here it is, right.
Okay, thank you.
according to Zillow.
Does it show both parcels? I mean, both structures?
That was the 422 Curtis.
Okay, that was the first one,
And the other one's 110.
110. We had a big boom in the 30s.
Yeah, well,
So my guess would be in the 30s.
That one was before I was born,
That one's 1909.
and so was
Whoa.
that one.
Probably a mother-in-law suite at first, and then,
Yeah.
A lot of those small houses were, when they built the sugar beet factory, a lot of people in their backyards, if there was a garage or something, they put another little structure or
Mhm.
living quarter. A lot of basements were converted back then as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I lied. That's not the right one. They're not showing a structure on 110.
oh, they're not?
Yeah, there is no structure on 110.
They're wanting to build one, right?
Yeah, at the time there wasn't, but there's now,
There is?
yeah. So you have two,
Yeah, Where,
Yeah.
where might it be on the lot?
it's,
I just drove by there yesterday and
yeah, it's a corner
Yeah.
lot.
it was
so
a
you have-
vacant lot.
There's one next to the alley.
Oh, it's next to the alley there.
Yeah.
So if you look, if you actually look at Exhibit W, it shows where the structure is and where the house, the streets. So you have Emerson, and then on the other side you have Curtis, so it's at the corner. It's just at the back side.
So the way I see this though is right now, they're both considered the Curtis Street address, right?
No.
They have
No.
separate
One's
addresses.
Emerson and
One's
one's,
Emerson.
Yeah, they have separate, because it's 110, they have their separate address.
the one house on the corner is the Curtis address, and then the smaller home is the Emerson address next to the alley there.
Yeah, that's the 110, that's correct. Yeah.
Oh, there's the alley, so here's the.
So, they're aware already because I put a condition in the variance already, so it's gonna be redundant in this one, but they already know this, that once a property is subdivided, they have to get separate utility lines. And so, because if they intend to sell it, you can't be on the same. So they have to have separate utility lines and it has to be in separate addresses with different address names.
Do they not already have separate utility lines? How do they manage that?
They probably tied the
Usually a
the
water
smaller
line's tied
home
in.
into the primary home's services.
Yes.
That would be my guess.
So they're aware that they would have to have separate, and if may require, if it's not separate, I think it is not separate, but they require them to purchase a new water tap and sewer tap as well.
So the smaller home could have its services and everything
Tied
running
in.
Through the house on
422,
Curtis Street,
yeah,
through
Yeah.
their property. And so that would have to be severed and
correct. And they
Yeah.
agreed to those conditions in the variance.
Okay.
So it's already done, it's redundant, I put it in this one as well, and I did put conditions that it would be all utility lines. So that's exterior, that means gas, electric, water, and wastewater, so they were fine with that. And they wanted to do that anyways,
Well,
if
sure,
they wanted
yeah,
to sell it.
you'd want- if you'd have to do
Yeah.
that,
So when these people bought the property, they bought both of those houses separately?
No, it's one parcel.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So there might be an address there, but by all legal means and taxable documents, that's all 422 Curtis,
Well,
correct?
it probably has a
Mhm.
separate mailing address for the second property.
Yes.
Yeah, mailing, but
Yeah, so, but far as the parcel goes, for
Okay.
when
I
it's
was kinda
sold,
confused, cause I was like, well, if it's already two properties, why are we having
Yeah.
to do this? But it's one property,
with two principal
So we just
structures,
need to-
two separate addresses.
we need to fix the issue that's there.
Subdivide them.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. So, any other questions, comments?
Just the separate utilities, the last few months you've been working hard at ensuring whenever there's a new CO or something like that in downtown, get everything up to code. Just because the age, I just wanna make sure, like, electrical is a big one. I mean, it could be that we're not been due stuff in there. You know, I'm not sure if you checked that out, but it'll need to have its own electrical box and everything, breaker box. And I'm assuming that when they do that, the electrician will at least look inside the house and see what's in there so he knows how to size everything. And if anything, because I don't think they can put in a new box and go to like old knob and tube. I don't think that they would do that. But I think it's important just to emphasize bringing it up to code the best they can, because they're two old buildings. And one of the one on the near the alley has like a odd lean-to structure on it, like a garage looking thing. And I mean, today we would never
Allow that,
allow that, but it is a pre-existing.
yeah.
They're not changing any of the construction in the home, though.
Not that we're aware of.
No, and we will do a CO with them, because it'll be a change of, new owners, and so we'll walk through and make sure. I mean, we're not doing a home inspection, but they're gonna get a home inspection anyways if they sell it. And then we'll know what kind of things need, and it'll be their discretion if they're gonna upgrade. But they're gonna have to add, Excel will have to do a separate line, so they may require an upgrade of box. So they may have to do, because they can't tie into the knob and tube, so they may have to do it anyways.
Well, they'll have to just, Excel will just bring a new service to the home.
Electrician will have to.
And then from the
Yeah.
meter on, then that's up to the owner, and,
Yeah,
you know, yeah,
yeah.
Is there
same with the gas.
Is there separate water to that house, or it's all through?
I believe it's all tied together. You have one water connection, but it's connected through 422,
So will you make them,
separate,
so like on sewer, what do you do there?
separate.
They'll
'Cause I will tell you
they'll
there's-
probably have to do a new sewer tap.
There is a precedence in town, just from my point of view, where they do share sewer lines in a lot of locations in town, especially in instances like this. So I didn't know if.
Well, Dale's recommendation was separate them. And he's like, we will not allow any new
Yeah.
uses like that. So that's why we did that in the variance, to make sure they understood, if you're gonna subdivide this, you better have the understanding and agreed to, we want you to separate.
Okay.
So they are already okay with separating it. Yeah. And one of the other conditions was they would have to, even if they do have a sewer line, they would have to upgrade it to have like clean outs in it. Because some of these old ones don't have that.
Both properties then?
On both properties.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're gonna subdivide them, we want you to upgrade it to the new, exterior, at least all exterior utility lines would be new.
So how does that work then, if you're, where I see an issue in this, and it's something I run into a lot, the initial house's sewer line will run through the secondary house's property. So what do you do there? Do you make them come out into the street, into an easement on the initial property and go around?
Well, this is our first one.
They'll probably have to tie into the nearest sewer tap and water tap.
But that's in the alley in most of the cases
See, I
in
don't know
town.
which one, I'm assuming that Curtis Street is the primary property.
It is.
But-
It's the largest
Yeah,
part.
it's the larger lots
Mhm.
of the lot size, and then the smaller property probably is a secondary, and it probably ties in somewhere on the lot of the first house
Yeah,
for
so-
the sewer and the water. So I'm thinking though that surely there would be access, if Dale has looked at it, to tap the water and sewer lines, whether it's on Curtis or Emerson.
Yeah. What makes it easier is it's a corner lot, so you have front, right, from
Right.
the street to connect.
Yeah. You
That
buy
makes it
sewer lines
easier.
running
You
north.
might ask Dale about this though, because I run into this a lot, and it's a huge thorn in our side, because whoever buys that back property close to the alley is not gonna want the first property digging up their sewer line through their alley. And it's a huge problem.
Right.
So-
In that plat, you've gotta do a utility easement for the sewer and water if it cuts through someone else's.
Yeah.
So you might wanna make a note of that after Dale double checks it and see where that line would go, because we have had where, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then someone does not have an easement, and then
And they're forced to come out in the street, which
Yeah.
is a huge cost to.
but if it's an old one, sometimes the property owner on the second lot builds a shed or something over the sewer
Mhm.
line, and then that's when it becomes really problematic trying
Right.
to get through the yard.
Yeah.
And we've had that since I've been there probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we just did one about a year ago in Morgan, and it was real big legal battle. Because they did not want us going through their yard. And the funny thing was, they shared the sewer, but from the back property to the alley, they weren't having sewer problems. But the front property was, but it was the sewer problem was on the back property's lot.
So I just made a note, have Public Works Director approve the utility plans before any utilities are changed or installed. So he would be aware of it and can guide of how it should be go.
And the plat needs to have that easement
Yes.
annotated on it.
The plat needs to have an
Yeah,
easement
it's usually
for
like a
utility easement.
If necessary. We don't
Yeah.
know, which way it goes, but it'd be good to have that in there, because the applicant may not be aware of
Yeah.
those issues too.
95% of the sewers in town that have an alley go to the alley.
Okay, the last part was have final plat display utility easement. Okay.
They'll know those.
Okay. All right, any other questions? And then I'll read you recommendations.
No more other questions? I guess not. Good.
Great. All right, Chairman. If the Planning and Zoning Commission accepts the conclusions from the discussion as presented in the staff report and any testimony, but there was no testimony, presented in the public hearing, then staff recommends the following. Planning and Zoning moves to recommend the City Council approve the minor subdivision for 422 Curtis Street and 110 Emerson Street in final plat with the following conditions. Both principal structures need to have their separate utility lines, which is water, wastewater, electrical, and gas, and would have to have separate accounts. 2, all utilities need to be up to code, which an example would be cleanouts to be installed on wastewater lines. 3, have Public Works Director approve utility plans before utilities are changed or installed. 4, have final plat display utility easement.
I can't think of anything else.
Okay.
Sounds good.
That's my recommendation for motion.
Okay.
If you need this, you can see it.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
Well, so the applicant is not here, so they will not probably be making any presentation as well as any public testimony. Are there any final questions that we might have for staff? If not, then I'll close the public hearing and we'll resume our regular commission meeting. So,
We
Rick,
need a motion to close the hearing.
I don't know.
I move we close the public hearing.
Okay. Been moved and seconded, we close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay,
Now we need a motion for.
got it. Yeah, we need I'd like to have a motion to, the subdivision of the property with the conditions, or, I can't find my page that
I know, I can't find it.
Here's mine.
Thanks. Okay. So we need a motion to accept it as presented with the conditions, or not approve it, or deny the request, or continue the request. So.
I move we approve the request with the conditions.
Four conditions.
Four conditions.
Okay.
Second.
George said second first.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? If not, we'll vote. Do we want a roll call vote? Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Commissioner Musso,
I vote yes.
Counselor Commissioner Barral. Yes. Mayor Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Chairman Oakley,
Yes.
Counselor Commissioner Spradlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Bieber.
Yes.
Okay. That's been, here you go. All right, so the motion carries. It looks like there's no other business on our agenda unless anyone else has anything for the good of the commission. If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All right, thank you.
For the cheese,
You promised me